Hi, this is Larry. I'd like to talk to you today about insert, update, and delete into a relational database management system. Basically, we're talking about adding, changing, or moving data from inside tables. Just give you an overview of this. What we're looking at is manipulating the contents of the table, so we're going to want to do what? We're going to add rows, change values in columns, and then delete the rows. The main commands then are insert, update, and delete. And very important, you can use conditional logic with all of this. Where, ands, or ors, etc. If you look at over here on the little grid over here on the right, you can see that it says to blank, use that blank command. To add rows, use the insert command. Please remember that. To change values in columns, use the update command because we're going to update the values. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to delete rows, use the delete command. So when we look at taking a table and you create it, it is empty, meaning that there's no data. You've just defined it within the database. So what you're going to have to do is to input data into there, meaning you're going to have to insert rows. Going across here this way, you're going to insert the rows. So you have to insert one row at a time. Then you're going to, if you need to make any changes, you're going to need to update the different columns, meaning that you're going to update. You're not going to remove or delete or anything else. You're going to update the columns, the values. Now, if you want to remove something entirely, you have to remove the entire row, and that's where we go delete. So just remember, if you're going to load any data into the database or you want to add something to the database as far as a new entity, you're going to have to insert the entire row. If you need to make changes to the data already in there, you're going to update the data by column. And then if you're going to delete, you're going to delete by rows. So let's take a look at the insert statement. Insert means basically insert into a table, and then you're going to provide a column list of the columns you're going to affect, and then you're going to put the values or the data that you want to insert. This adds new rows to the tables, and every row is an entity because the table itself is an entity set. So every row is unique and it's its own entity. All not null columns must have a value in the insert statement, such as PKs or other values, maybe even foreign keys that you need or set as not null. You will need to make sure that they're always in the insert statement. The values must be placed in the order which the columns appear, meaning that you need to have the columns as defined in the order that they appear in the table. In the create statement is what they're going to need to be inserted into. And all columns not having a value inserted will be null, meaning if you don't put a value in, the database automatically provides a null value. And characters must be embraced by single tick marks, meaning that if you have characters, you put a single tick mark, not a double quotes, but a single quote. And then if you're going to be using numerics, just simply numerics is something that can be calculated, you don't use tick marks at all. Now, let's take a look at adding a new row then. So we're going to add a new row. We're going to do what? Insert. We want to use an insert. And there's a table definition here that it describes what's in this table. So here's an example of adding a new row without a column list. Without a column list, you would need to do what? You would need to insert all the values that were inside there. Or you're going to insert into employees. You could also do this. Insert only certain values, but then you're going to have to put commas in for every one that's going to be null. One of the problems in doing it this way is the fact is that you will end up sometimes putting data into the wrong columns because you misplaced the commas, meaning that you put the values in the wrong section. So therefore you've got bad data inside there. What is mostly recommended to do is to add a new row within a column list if you're not going to add all the different columns and all the elements, all the values, then create a column list. In this case here, as the example above, if we just wanted to put the employee ID, the first name and the last name and the department number, we create this separate column list to define that. And again, it has to be in order of what we're putting into the define, how the table's defined. But in this case, we don't have to use the commas, and we don't run into that problem. Recommend strongly that when you do insert statements, you do them like this. So let's look at updating. Now that we've put data into the table, let's say we need to change any of the values inside there. So therefore, we're going to update, and you just say basically update to the table name, and then you're going to set. What we mean is we're going to set a new value. We're not going to delete a value. We're not technically changing the value. You actually have to set it. So we're replacing the values in there with another one. So always keep in mind that when you do an update, you always have to have a value to go in there. You just don't put a blank in there. You put a value in there. And then you're going to want to have a where condition, because if you don't put a where condition in there, you will update all of the columns in all the items in all the rows in the column. So this is change the values already exist in the column. You want to set can change the values in one or more columns. The where is optional. And again, however, all values in the column in the set clause will be changed if the where is not used. Remember this. You're setting it in by the column. If you don't use a where condition, you're going to set it for all of the rows in the table. So where sets the condition at the entity level where the change will take place in the columns. Recommend strongly, unless you're going to really do it for all the rows in the column, that you make sure and get in the habit of always checking to see where the where is correct. So let's take a look at changing all the values in a column. In this case here, we're going to look at the first example is updating employee number. We're just going to set the department number to 001. This would change all the employees that have in the same department. And down in here, we want to set the employee number, update the employee number. We're going to set the department number one. We're saying Emp City to Ventura and the Emp City zip code to 90087. Well, what we did here is not only do we set the department number for all employees, we set the city and the zip. We changed it for the city and zip for all employees. So this beware, this change will value all the rows. An example, all the employees have their values changed. Keep this in mind without a where clause. The where clause is missing here. Without the where clause, all the employees would have the data changed. So let's just look at how we change with selected values in a column. So in this case here, if we wanted to change employee set number to 001, or employee ID equals 007. Or employee set number, department number, employee city, employee zip, and then we say we're first name and last name. Now would we get the same results? Well, since employee ID is a PK, we know we're going to a specific entity. But in this case here, what we're doing is all the employees named James Madison would be changed. Therefore, is always use the primary key when changing a specific entity. Want to protect the entity integrity. Yes, you may assume that James Madison may be unique, but that's just an assumption. So changing values in a column to null. Now, keep in mind that null is not 0. It is not a space. So you don't put 0 or space in any relational database management system. Just don't leave it, try to make it blank, because null is a special value. And it's recognized by the DBMS by the output as blank. It'll look blank, but it has a special value to itself. And then therefore the database can see it. And which means that nulls can never be equal to each other because of the special value of it. And it's a lot of times used to identify if data been input or not. So you don't really delete data, you replace data. If you want to delete data from a column in an entity, replace it always with a null. For example here, update null, set department null where employed is 007. Let's say that the employee is now moved to another department. We don't know where that department is going to be named, or maybe we just don't want to give it a null. We want a null because we don't want to give it the person's not in the department at all. But you can see where we're getting more specific here. So let's now look at where we want to delete. Now remember that delete is going to be working at the rows. So basically we're going to say delete from table name where condition. So in this case we're going to say we're going to delete the rows. Where is optional. However, all rows in the table will be deleted if where is not used. Table stays intact. Table's still there, but all the data is lost. So where sits the condition? At the entity level where the delete is to happen by the row. Warning, warning, warning. Deleting is unrecoverable. So make sure when you're doing deletes that if you're not going to want to delete all the data, you actually have a good where clause. So let's take a look at an example of deleting rows here. Deleting all the rows. Simply delete from employee. You will delete all the employees in the database. Let's take an example of deleting a specific row in a table. In this case, let's delete from employee where employee ID 007. So 007 has left the company and we want to delete that employee. Please take note of this. Never, ever do delete from a table name unless you are sure you want to get rid of all the data. Keep in mind when you're doing these statements that no result set is produced, because basically you're only making changes to the data inside there. Only a message is, if it's completed successfully or if there's an error, will appear when you run it. So run select statement to view contents of table is necessary if you want to see what the changes have been made. For example, you want to get the results of the entire table, just do the select star from the table name. Or more importantly, if you want to check to see what it made to a specific entity, select star from table name or row specific PK. Keep in mind that putting data into a table is relatively easy. However, when you're making changes or you're deleting, make sure you are working specifically with the rows or the entities you want to deal with.